So as the holiday season is upon us, that's a classic scene from Cheers, the food fight scene at the Thanksgiving table. And I was thinking about that because, well, a food fight sort of sums up the Giants and Jets season, and it's Thanksgiving, and we got a week ahead of us where couple big games, including a Black Friday game. So we'll get into that in just a second. We are the Three Angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. It's your host, Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Novak. And Giant Mike's absent right now. He may hop on a little bit later. If not, we wish him the best. But guys, thoughts of a Thanksgiving week?
One of the greatest weeks of the year, right? Family, friends, food fights, football. Got all the F's in there.
That's it.
F-bombs, you name it.
And in
Black
fact,
Fridays.
these games on Thursday aren't going to be terrible. The Lions are actually decent for the first time in forever, although they play the Packers, which isn't. Oh no, they play the Bears or the Packers.
Bears. No, they just played the Bears.
That's right. They play the Packers.
Yeah.
And then Dallas and
Washington.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which we may have to go back to calling them Washington. Do they have a W, Chris?
We've taken two of them, so somehow
you own the Commandos.
Unbelievable. Unreal. Hey, don't forget Thursday night's game. That's a good one too. Seattle, San Fran.
That is a decent one.
That's so all NFC Thanksgiving, which is kind of odd. I usually like to mix and match at least a little bit.
Well, that's because on Black Friday we have an AFC matchup with the Jets and the Dolphins.
Get into that one.
So you can do your shopping and watch remotely as the games are going on.
It's playing a holiday game. It's not a holiday. It's what I said when we announced it. And now they're doing with the song "Paint It Black." Come on with this. It's the NFL. Look, we've got a lot to get into today with all kinds of stuff that annoy me with the NFL. But yeah, and then football, and then the weekend. How great was college football this past weekend? And now we got Ohio State, Michigan on Saturday. There's a lot of good stuff coming up.
A lot of good sporting weekend every year. I noticed they're also calling the Thanksgiving Day games the John Memorial or the John Madden Memorial games.
Memorial. Got to give a prelude to Madden, the all-time just best announcer of all time. Invented the telestrator, remember, or the CBS, the old CBS chalkboard. Him and Summerall used to love that thing. That's how elementary the technology was back then. The chalkboard was the greatest thing in the world when he would circle a player. Now he's gonna go here and boom.
But you know what? It was good enough.
It was awesome,
right? Yeah, it was plenty.
The telestrator was the domain of Mike Fratello, the czar of the telestrator.
The czar.
So let's give a shout out before we get into everything. Hello, Austell, Georgia. It's part of Atlanta Metro, population 7,713, and it was an area known for salt licks. So hunters and trappers were the first settlers there. They would come through with the salt licks, go hunting, trap deer. And it's also known for the Jimmy Carter Library, which is timely because Rosalind Carter just passed away yesterday, and it's home for the Coca-Cola Museum. So if you think about where the Coca-Cola Museum is, it probably is home of where the Georgia Dome is too, because it's right there. The Coca-Cola Museum's right next to it.
Yep. Austell, is that what you said?
Austell, Austell, known for salt licks. Huh. So I never knew about it either. That's what I thought was pretty good. Is that it's actually part of Atlanta Metro. I had no clue about it.
No idea.
Never heard of it.
So Giants get a win, and I know Mike's not here to commiserate on this, but I gotta say I'm a little bit disappointed in Giant fans because Giant fans this year, they hate it when they lose, and now they hate it when they win. So They talk about draft position so much that this win has now destroyed everyone's chances of getting a good pick. And the amount of chatter fans had throwing shade on Daniel Jones because Tommy DeVito had a good game. Again, what the fuck is it with fans? It's like they have Daniel Jones derangement syndrome or something. Just enjoy what you watched and let everything play out the way it will. You have no say in what's going on. What makes you so uptight and so compulsive about Daniel Jones?
I wasn't thinking for 1 minute about Daniel Jones
No.
during this game. It's the guy again. He's single-handedly the reason this team has sucked for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, aside from last year, of course. So yeah, I to your point, Scott. I don't know. We talk about this all the time. Like I saw a couple texts and that kind of thing too. Like just somehow Jones' name is being dragged into it. Like forget it. The guy may never play another down for this franchise. Who cares? But I do want to make mention. I want to make a public apology here to Tommy DeVito, because my pet peeve, if everybody remembers last week, was Fox's get to know Tommy DeVito. And my peeve was like, no, I'm not going to get to know this third string scrub. He shouldn't be in my team. He shouldn't be in the NFL. The whole thing. The guy's playing with some fire. The guy, he had a hell of a game. Not even just statistically. I mean, his numbers are outstanding. 3 touchdowns, 246 passing yards. His quarterback rating, which I didn't realize this till today, 130. Well, today it was just one day. I'm thinking it's Wednesday. 137.7 was his quarterback rating. DeVito.
Jeez.
I got to give the guy a lot of props for that. So, my apologies to Tommy DeVito and his parents, who the camera was able to find several times during the broadcast. But now I may be having a different tune next week. Who the hell knows? After one more showing, but. At least for 1 week, my apologies to Tommy DeVito and the family for knocking this guy around last week.
Well, at least you can own up to it, like not like all this other media, right? Who praise someone, then they stink, and then they don't say anything, right? You just stepped up. You're like, hey, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Played well. Good for him.
I do have to mention, you brought it up. We are recording this on Monday because it is Thanksgiving week. We got a travel going on, just a bunch of stuff happening. So we decided to get this podcast out of the way in the early part of the week. Novak's going to like this stat. Matter of fact, I think he shared this stat. But Tommy DeVito this year, 73 passing attempts, and Zach Wilson has 306 passing attempts. They both have 5 touchdown passes.
Yeah, I think
so. A guy with 1/4 the number of attempts has the same amount of passing touchdowns, and the Giants, let's just keep it rolling as the odd stat year that it is. They are the first team in NFL history, any team, to allow 8 sacks or more, for 6 turnovers, and score 30 points all in one game.
This has been the most bizarre year. The Giants, I mean, how many freaking NFL records has this team set, either for or against? Most of them have been negative. On the negative variety, but now we throw another one. I mean, Daniel Jones had that one ridiculous second half against Arizona week 2, which feels like 5 years ago. But we've had some bizarre statistical anomalies with this Giants team this year. The one good thing to come out of this, listen, I was thinking the same thing, Scott, we've said this many times. I can never, ever, ever root against the New York Giants. I just can't, especially when you're in the game and you see it start playing out. I was starting to get pissed, like thinking to myself, what team at any point in the game is +5 on the turnover ratio, and we're they could have a chance to lose the game. Like Washington was down by 1 score at the end of the game. I'm thinking we're +5 on the turnover scale. What do we have to do to get a double-digit win? And then of course Simmons with the nail in the coffin pick 6 to end it. Which Sam Howell, by the way, I mean this guy's I don't know what to say about his performance, but if this doesn't get Riverboat's ass fired, what does? You know what I mean? That's the only thing. Because listen, we were just talking about college football and everything this time of the year. Second week in a row, I gotta make mention. I partied with Scott at Clemson last week. I was had the pleasure of going down to Clemson last week to see them beat up on Georgia Tech, which was an amazing scene and a great stadium down there. The whole vibe. And then this week, my buddy's daughter goes to JMU, so JMU App State. So my son and I drove up to JMU and saw just a great road win. And I was thinking about this, guys, and we can all attest to this. Is there anything better than winning on the road when you're there?
No.
Nothing.
Absolutely
nothing better than walking out of that stadium. Yep. Just doing one of these around a bunch of distraught fans. So that's what I was thinking about even yesterday, which and Washington still has hopes for the playoffs. They still, and this team can't figure out how to beat the New York Giants. So at a minimum, Yeah, okay. Draft position. Yeah, I was saying last week, I want the number 1 pick and all this and that. You can't say that when you're in the middle of a game and you're beating a division rival and you're sending those people home pissed off, because they got to be scratching their heads. How the fuck can we not beat this and figure out this New York Giant team? No matter what year, like who's in that uniform, who's coach? Think about it. Like we can't beat Dallas and Philly. We know that. And Washington cannot beat the Giants. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
There's no better sound in sports than when the opposing team wins a game on the road and the stadium is so silent you could actually hear the players on the field celebrate.
Yes.
It rarely happens. And you realize how like muted the player sound is until all of a sudden like there's a pin drop and all of a sudden you hear the guys on the sideline pumping everything up. And you hear it in college football a lot because obviously college football is a sideline with 150 people on it.
Well, I heard it Saturday in person. I just, App State was going wild after they salvaged it in overtime. But yeah, that's the one good thing is Washington now is 4-7. The other thing about the Giants is we better be careful now. All of a sudden we may not be in last place either. I want last place. Whether or not that it barely means anything in the scheduling for next year, but this has to send Washington into a tailspin and get some people fired over there, does it not?
Well, and when you lose to the Giants, the media will turn on you. You watch, Sam Howell went from media darling last week to this week he's going to be a bum. This guy, what's he doing?
Yeah,
and it's because these analysts look at stats and that's it. Sam Howell's got the second highest number of yards per game in the league. Well, dude, how do you have 6 turnovers against New York Giants? And some of those throws he was making, for some reason, the Giants have his number. I don't get it. And I mean, we were in their backfield all day. They were in our backfield all day. Huh. And for those people that are talking about Jones, well, Jones would have got sacked in this game. Well, Tommy DeVito got sacked 9 times.
9 times.
So the offensive line is still a sieve. It's porous. We're giving up terrible plays to the defense. I mean, like to your point, Chris, we were +5 at one point and in a dogfight with Washington. Yeah. And had we lost with 6+ turnovers, we would have been one of only 2 teams in NFL history to lose a game with having 6 turnovers.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, the 6 though was a pick 6 to end the game. So but what I was thinking too is imagine, just say that game say there were no turnovers. Say the turnover was stat was just even. Giants they don't win that game. No. How? Right? So again, yeah, the Giants are still. We saw the rushing statistics at halftime. I think the Giants had 0 total yards going into the third quarter rushing. So the offensive line is still just an absolute sieve, a joke. It feels good to get a win, but at the same time, these wins are so hollow. Is the best way I can describe it. They're just an empty shell. I mean, like I said, all right, well, we stuck a dagger and a fork in the Washington Commanders, whatever that's worth. At least one thing we keep we keep our foot on their throats for another year, sweeping Washington. That's one thing we can hang our hats on, for the year, whatever that's worth. And
as a fan, I can never root for the tank. It's out of our control as fans anyway. If someone wants to tank, it's really out of the players' control too. The only way you're going to do it is if you trade away all your players, like the Giants trade away Leonard Williams. But really, it ends up becoming an organizational thing to tank because you can't tell players don't go out there and try. The guys are playing for their jobs,
Yeah, of course.
And my question on that game, and we've talked about this before, what has Riverboat ever done? He took the Panthers to the Super Bowl in 2015 with an extremely talented team, and that team didn't show up in the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly.
Not really.
What has he ever done? And then that team fell apart, and all of a sudden he's this great coach you have to have. He's done nothing with the Commandos. Like I don't understand the Riverboat fascination, and he's not Riverboat either. He doesn't take a lot of chances.
And here's the thing, Novak, too. What I love about you, it's not possible to be everyone's Riverboat today because every coach is going for it in every situation, every game, it doesn't matter what the analytics. Every single coach is Riverboat. He might be going for it the least in the league now.
And I feel like it's this year because now when I watch a game and it's 4th and 3, I think twice. Are they going to go for it? And they're on like the 30-yard line, the other 30, and I'm going, wait a minute. back in the day, you didn't think twice. Unless it were an inch, you are not going. You are punting every single time. Now you think twice every time you see anything from 4th and 3, all the way down to 4th and 1. You don't know what they're going to do.
Well, even during the Jets-Bills game, the Bills had a bunch of 3rd and longs, like 3rd and 15, and all of a sudden it becomes 4th and 4. And I think 3 different times in that game, they at least got up to try and snap the ball or try and draw off sides, the Jets. Once they actually snapped it and didn't get it, but the other two, and then you end up having to burn a timeout on your own because of that.
Well, in their defense, they know that the offense of the Jets isn't going anywhere. So what's the difference? They're just going to get the ball back, but it's another story.
Yeah. Well, we could get to that, though. I mean, the Jets melted down versus Buffalo. Wilson fell down literally getting onto the field, and then he was benched by the end of the game. So QB going forward, are they going to make a change? Saleh was very non-committal today.
They did today.
Oh, they did announce
it. Official Novak. I didn't hear
official. Tim Boyle will be the starter on Black Friday, backed up by Trevor Siemian.
My apologies. Hence your text. The Tim Boyle era begins earlier today. I remember.
Yes.
So okay, I hadn't seen the announcement, so I figured that's what you meant. But okay.
So Wilson isn't even the backup.
He's the 3rd string. And I'm thinking, why are you suiting the guy up? Why are you going to have a 3rd string quarterback on the sideline just getting heckled by the drunk Jet fans on Black Friday? I don't cut the guy already. What purpose is he serving? No one wants to see him running out there. He running out there. He can't even run out there. He falls down. So it's. Look,
he'll be wearing the green rain overcoat with his helmet on. He won't let you find him on the sidelines. That's for sure.
Well, he looks like a water boy anyway. So what's the difference? Have him shoot water in guys' faces. I mean, So I was thinking about this. Like we were talking. You started the pod with a great show from the 80s, and I was thinking we have a lot of Giant listeners, and you guys probably wonder what's it like to be a Jet fan. So I thought of this analogy, which I think is timely being this time of year because we're all going to be doing this. We are Griswold, and our season is putting up those damn Christmas lights. That's what it's like to be a Jet fan. We're Griswold. We start out, we're gonna have the biggest and the greatest, and then we're gonna staple our shirt to the gutter, right? We're gonna fall off the roof, and people are gonna be watching and laughing. And then the lights are going to come on like the Eagle game for 1 second, and everyone's going to, it's on, we've done it, hallelujah, we've made it. And then they're going to go off, and as a Jet fan, I'm going to be kicking that Santa Claus and hacking stuff left and right. It's just, that's what it is. And you know what? And the lights never come on. They never come on at the end, like a happy ending. We're not going to get the guy coming standing next to me going, it's a beaut, Clark.
No, Novak, what it is Rogers is the one bulb that went out, and then the whole fucking strand goes out. You remember back in the
exactly.
Right.
Another great one, Cardone.
One light goes out, they all
go out. Yeah. Remember that? How asinine was that technology back then? One bulb. Can't find the fucking thing. You're searching which bulb it is, and they actually have whoever actually replaced the bulbs. You know how they give you the replacement bulbs?
That little gun thing?
No. I'm just gonna go buy a new strand
for $1.99. I'm getting another strand.
They give you the little replacement bulbs, sort of like replacement buttons on your sports coat. Who's ever used those?
No one. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, never doing that. So that's what it's like. But
Clark W, by the way, Clark W.
Griswold. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reality is for you guys as Giant fans, you're kind of the same thing this year, whatever. But sometimes the lights come on for you at the end of the year. And that your movie is different. You're ending. Us, it never comes on. And the next year, I'll be out there in that driveway sewing. We're going to make the biggest and greatest ever yet again. And I'm going to be up there stapling my shirt to the gutter again.
Well, Clark was waiting for his Christmas bonus, which is not going to come because it all went in fucking Daniel Jones's pocket this year. So everyone who's complaining that Jones, there it is. There finally. All the fans that are complaining about Jones's salary that we paid him, that's what I guess no one else. We're not going to be able to put our swimming pool in this year and get the Christmas bonus because Daniel Jones is the only one who's getting a bonus.
So I want to know who Cousin Eddie is. Is it Rex Ryan?
No, it's Cousin Eddie is the Browns and the Lions. They're a bigger loser than me, but they're good this year, so he's actually better.
Yeah. Who's Saleh? I mean,
that's a good question. That's the guy that smokes the cigar that burns up the tree.
Oh, the grandfather.
The grandfather. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if you
Whatever it
guys were doing a mental head count of Salah, but I was trying to do one. I couldn't. You can't keep up with
Dude,
the Salah cam. You
impossible.
can't.
Novak and I were talking about this before coming on air. I don't know what it is with the Jet games, but it's out of control. I've watched other games. They don't show the coaches nearly as much
No.
as they show Salah. Every play, it seems like anymore.
It's
It's incredible.
I've never seen anything like it. I have no explanation for it. I watch other games just to get a sense, and there's nothing even close. Doesn't make it's inexplicable at this point. It really is.
I just like when they showed him when Zach Wilson knocked him over when he went out of bounds. That was the. I was just hoping Zach would have fallen down and broken his wrist or something, so he wouldn't have to go back out there. But sadly, he went back out there. But there's so many. Some of the stuff that happened in this game is just comical. This was the comical game. This was the butt fumble game. This was all these funny games that make us the laughing stock. It was this week. It was the Bills game this week that did it. Alan Lazard, did you see the Bills player intercepts a ball, runs into the end zone, and Alan Lazard hugs him?
Yes.
Yes. Because I thought something had happened. I thought maybe the play was called back, and
look, dude, what are you doing? You're hugging the other player on the other team after an interception return for a touchdown. Like that's and first play of the game. You guys saw it. Fumbled the kickoff. It brought me back to when I was 10 years old. 1981 Bills Jets play wild card game. First play of the game. Bruce Harper fumbled the kickoff. Bills picked it up, ran for a touchdown. I remembered it as that happened. And that's the shit that goes down. Our longest pass play was by our punter.
All game.
That was our longest pass play was by our punter, Thomas Morstead. They asked Quinnen Williams, another one. They asked Quinnen Williams after the game, "What'd you think of Salah's post-game speech?" You know what he said? "I didn't hear it. I was in the bathroom." This only happens to the Jets, and so yeah, just pathetic all around.
I tell you, I was thinking about as I was watching. I caught a decent amount of the Jet game, and I think I just texted our group thread and just said the Jet offense, good Lord, you know what I mean? Just there's no other word. But we've seen it with the Giants too. True, I know. Yeah. By the way, Novak, I saw that stat. It was 30. What did it end up being? 39 straight drives before a touchdown. Was that what it was? I saw 37 at one point.
Yeah, it was. And it got to 39 or 40 before.
39 or 40 drives.
Before they got a touchdown. It's not NFL football.
It's not NFL football. I was thinking, haven't there been there must have been some short fields in there, maybe after a turnover on downs, and you're not punching it in from 4. Because obviously I can't remember the drives like you can as a fan, watching your own team the last couple of games. I couldn't remember. I was thinking how has this team not scored a touchdown?
Good, but they had turnovers within the red zone and they didn't score.
And
they went backwards twice.
Yeah.
They started the 18, the 17, went back to the 28 after 2 sacks. So Zach's benched. Can't get any worse than him. I don't know. This Tim Boyle, who knows what he's going to do? But he can't be worse. That's all I know. He cannot be worse than what we've seen. The one thing I can say, he's got an arm. He's 6'4". He can at least see over the defense. And that little shit Zach Wilson, who is just worth nothing. Just I'm over it. I'm done. And I'm not apathy at this point. So I don't really care.
I was trying to think. We saw DeVito and the Giants against Dallas. Last week. Versus Jets and the Bills this week. I was thinking what looks worse? What offense was more just disgusting, and it was probably about on par. Maybe, I don't know.
It was worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the Jets offense against the Bills. I would liken it to the Giants against the Jets when you went negative passing yards.
Right.
It was similar to that. You get the ball and you have zero hope at all of moving the ball forward.
You don't. It's one of those things where as an NFL team and an NFL game, which everything we know, it's all favors the offense. When you're thinking, how the hell, forget about scoring a touchdown. When you start getting to the point where, how are we going to get a first down? That's when you know that you're not watching the NFL. You're not.
And it's the same script. Breece Hall up the middle, 1 yard. Zach Wilson drops back, sack, back 8 yards. Third play, Zach overthrows someone, throws it in the ground, punt. I mean, I can script it how it was going. So maybe there's a change now. Maybe something. I don't know.
What was sort of annoying me was every time the Jets would get a good play on defense, 3 defenders would do a choreographed celebration.
That comes back to bite him in the ass when they let up 32 points.
Well, not only that, but every time the Bills in the second half started making plays, they had their 3 guys doing the choreographed thing too. Yeah. And it's That's all you do. Like, you're getting kicked in the teeth. I hate it when the Giants, I think we were talking about against Cowboys. They got a interception in the third quarter, down like 30 points, and they're sitting there celebrating. They're running to the other end zone like these teams do now to mug for the camera. And I'm like, just hand the ball to the ref, walk up the field. See ya.
Yeah. Hey, listen, the Bills are my AFC pick to make to the Super Bowl. When we did our preseason picks, but I as I said, I kind of have had it with them this year a little bit. Good luck the next couple of weeks, though. You see the Bills up next 3 games.
See that schedule?
Yeah, you beat you beat up the Jets. That's fine, doing all your dancing and bullshit at Philly, at Kansas City, Dallas at home, and then even throw in even at the Clippers. After that. So, which are a weird team. They can't figure them out. But good luck the next 3 weeks, Bills. You might disappear.
You were talking about Riverboat Ron. Why isn't he fired? Why the hell is Staley still there in Los Angeles? I mean, the guy.
Did you see him in the press conference after the game?
He was defiant.
He was. He reminds me of Adam Gase.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Adam Gase. Just no personality.
Yeah.
Can't read the room. Says the wrong thing. Horrible offensive coach. Just. Yes,
I was going to say Lane Kiffin, but I like the Adam Gase
very similar
call too.
Well, I would say similar to that too. He's just douchey. Yeah. Sirianni would be the same way if he were losing on a bad team. He would be the exact same way as Staley.
The Chargers are that team you watch and you're like, this is a pretty damn good team, and then they never win.
I know.
and every game that they're in, that's a close game. They don't blow teams out either. They're sort of like that team that just they are flashy, but they have nothing to show for it.
But I feel like, and if I know this could easily be researched or Googled or something, but I swear I feel like the Chargers have a lead in every single game they play.
They do,
and they lose half of them. Doesn't it seem like they have at least point at least a 3 or a 1 score lead somewhere every single game?
You realize that with the Broncos beating the Vikings, the Chargers are now in last place in the AFC West.
Oh, geez, I didn't even see that. No, I didn't even. The Broncos are part of my pet peeve tonight. I'll get to later, of course. But yeah.
But
you're probably wondering why specifically the Broncos, but I'll explain, of course, later.
By the way, the Giants got their first quarter touchdown all year long.
Just
so,
and it's Thanksgiving week.
And you may have found your backup quarterback.
I think
right. I mean, why not? Do you want to see Tyrod Taylor back in there? What's the point?
The biggest problem I have with Tyrod Taylor is the one thing you need out of your backup. He doesn't necessarily have to be great, but he has to be durable.
Yeah,
you can't have your backup come in and get hurt after 2 plays.
That's a good point, Scott. You're right.
I was thinking, obviously, the Giants, like every backup quarterback should wear number 15 for the Giants, because I'm going back to obviously the Jeff Hostetler days, where the guy, a guy went on to win a Super Bowl, for God's sakes. But you're a backup for the New York Giants, number 15. I don't care. That's it. You're just handed that number.
You'll probably know this, Cardone, because you're great with numbers. What was Jeff Rutledge? 12?
17.
Rutledge was 17.
17. Oh, look at Novak even knew.
I had to try to get that in there.
Yeah.
Was he a West Virginia guy?
No, Alabama. Hostetler was West Virginia.
Haas was West Virginia.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. That's a good good memory bank there.
So the Bears also made history this week. They were the first team in NFL history as well. So this is 2 games in 1 week where teams set all-time records, highs and lows. First team in NFL history that lost with a +3 or more turnover margin and 40+ minutes of possession.
Love it.
The other teams that had that were 48-0 prior to that epic collapse by the Bears.
Love it. It's on
Justin Fields' first game back.
Yeah. Which first game back, which, by the way, so I mentioned I was, went up to JMU this weekend. So we were driving back yesterday, and so the 1:00 games had started while I'm still in the car, and I had the NFL radio on. So I'm listening to, Around the Horn. Is it Steve Torrey, I think, does the he does a great job. Torrey does. So they chime into the Chicago game. And this was when, Chicago had to lead, I forget at what point, doesn't matter what point of the game. But I as they're going around the horn, I just hear the guy say, it wasn't Torrey, it was one of whoever the Bear announcer was, whatever, says, Justin Fields is just a defensive nightmare matchup for any defense. I almost drove off the road. I'm like, what fucking defensive nightmare? The guy's like 5-37 in his career. How big of a nightmare can the guy be? What is it? He has 6 wins.
How many games has he thrown under 120 yards in his career too? You know, it's like
he got tagged. He got dubbed a nightmare, a defensive matchup nightmare. Justin Fields. That's what he got.
Because he can run. That's it.
That's it.
The
He
only
can run
reason.
around a little bit. Nightmare matchup.
I mean,
it has
been a nightmare 6 times
NFL,
out of like 43 times. 43 games. He's been a nightmare 6-7 times. That's about it.
This year's just been it's been one of the more bizarre ones that I can think of. I know you're going to get to the Bronco thing, but the Broncos lost. I mean, they were losing that whole game to the Vikings, who, have somehow carried on without Kirk Cousins. You had the Arizona Cardinals that are hanging around on teams, but they lost to the Texans after C.J. Stroud threw 3 interceptions. The Browns somehow are clawing their way in games, and the Browns and Steelers to me are like mirror images of one another. Yeah. That's one of those games. It was almost like the Giants Jets game to have to watch, and just it's been a weird year. And you were talking about the college atmosphere, and I've really only gotten into college football since my daughter started going to Clemson, and then my son went to Clemson after that. But it's like the first time I went to a Clemson game, I was like, whoa, now this is college football. Because you have to remember, I grew up up north with Syracuse, where you didn't tailgate. You went to the Dome by a shuttle. It just was a very, let's call it like almost like just a blah experience. So you come down here and go to the it still is. You come down here and you go to a Clemson game, you go to a Virginia Tech game, you go to an App State game. There's pageantry and atmosphere. And I keep going back to this because I saw it so many times this week in the NFL, and I brought it up on last week's podcast. There's so many flags now thrown in the NFL where you're scratching your head wondering, first off, what did the refs see? And second of all, why are you throwing that flag on 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10, whatever it is to bail out a team? The Giants ended up winning that game, but on that final drive, they were called for being in the neutral zone, which if you go back and watch almost any play in the NFL, you can call someone in the neutral zone. And then they were called for an illegal contact on a ball that they intercepted before Simmons intercepted his. And it's just like the NFL refs refuse to let defensives make plays to end games, it seems.
We're seeing that every week, and we talk about it on our pod every single week, but it's because the reason we do, it's not like that we're looking for just material to talk about. No, it's because it's how these games are decided, and we've talked about it a million times, guys. And for our listeners, it's the predictability of it. That's what always drives us insane, is that the game. I want to know, I think I posed this question yesterday. I was thinking about this. Guys, try to think of or watch any final drive for any team, especially if it's a one-score. Well, definitely if it's a one-score game. I'm not sure about if it's a blowout or not, because usually you're not watching those games, red zone and that kind of thing. I usually have the red zone on or whatever if when I'm not watching a Giants kind of thing. And guys, I'm telling you, there is never, ever a final drive where a team has a chance to tie or take the lead where there's not at least one flag on the defense. I don't care what kind of flag it is. There's not one. You can't just get a clean drive. You can't. That's what we're talking about so obviously I don't remember it always being like that, but we talk about it on this pod over and over, and we may sound like a broken record, but that's the reason, because it's so built in to the infrastructure of the game, if you will, that it decides the outcomes of games. It just decides games now at this point. And it's predictable. You wait for the flag. We all do the same thing. We see a play, and if we're cheering for the defense, we see an incomplete pass, you want to cheer at first, but you can't. You're like, oh, wait for the little yellow box, and there it is. And furthermore, Varnicket, it's also when the flag comes in, and Novak, I'm talking about you in the Chief game, when the flag comes in with that 3-second delay after the defender's already. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that's my just contribution on that topic there, Scott. It's coming every single game.
It's timely, and it's the thing that you talked about there too. It's not just that it happens on those crucial drives, but it happens, and you're left saying to yourself as a fan, what did the guy do? If it's a last drive situation, should shouldn't it be a blatant foul? Shouldn't there be something that you go, aha, yes, he did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone's okay. If everyone agrees that looks like a foul, no one's complaining. No one is complaining.
Well, and think about this. Strip out the famous players and the logos and the Taylor Swift and everything else is the reason people watch the NFL. Strip out fantasy football, right? Put that product, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, up against college.
Yeah.
It's not even remotely close. Like, I was riveted by 5 games Saturday night. I got Kansas State, Washington, Oregon State, Texas, and someone else. I forget, Iowa State maybe was on there. Every game was great. There were a couple of flags at the end, but they were deserving. They actually did take them down. They were the right call. But the games were great. They were close. The fans were into it. And there wasn't all this shit around it that made it a spectacle. It was just great football.
And I continue to go back to say, when you see a flag in college, there's something that causes that flag to be thrown that the viewer notices. Now, it's not always right. There's bad calls, but at least if I put myself in that referee's shoes, I'm like, I see what he saw there.
Totally.
Yep, that looked like a hold. Even if it turns out it's not a hold. We have plays now in the NFL decided on like minimal contact. And on the same play, you'll see like a defender that's rushing the passer get ripped to the ground, and they're not calling that. But they're going to call a defensive back breathing on a wide receiver 5 yards downfield to the ball that's going to the opposite side of the field. I hate to go to the word rigged or bias and things like that. It just puts a bad taste in your mouth because you watch these games, and as a viewer, you say to yourself, what's a defender to do?
I don't understand. I really don't know how these defenders even keep their cool sometimes as much as they do. Really.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I saw guys, I think it was, I'm trying to think who it was. Oh, it was in the Seattle game this week. The Seattle defenders were a number of times just doing the palms up. Like, what am I supposed to do? Because, again, the Rams won that game at the end, and the Rams were aided by about 4 bad calls against the Seattle secondary. And, as a defender, you point to the big screen. The coach is pointing to the big screen. The refs just sort of looking stone faced on the field. It's just you have no recourse.
No, and on the tackling, you see these guys that are going full speed, and at the last second, because the quarterback gets rid of the ball, or even on a regular tackle, they put their arms up like they're bumping into someone as they're walking in the mall. Like, I'm sorry, like because they're so afraid to get a flag. Like, you can't follow through. I mean, that's the sad part about it. Like, that was so great about the NFL, and we've lost that.
We had that one time with Matthias Kiwanuka. Remember, he didn't wrap up Vince Young because he was afraid he was going to
on a 4th down play, if I believe, cost us the game.
So he held up. Vince Young scoots out to the side, runs for a 1st down, and the Titans ended up winning that game.
And Scott, what was the new one you picked up on this week, where someone had a foot inbounds, so it was okay to hit them?
I'm gonna get to that in the pet peeve. So,
okay.
So keep that for then, because I will bring that one up.
Good.
Speaking of which, we can go to the pet peeve. So
let's do it.
I'll go to Novak first.
So my pet peeve, I don't know if we've used this one before, so excuse me if we have, but my pet peeve is. And Cardone touched on it a little bit in the beginning with the telestrator from Madden. And if you notice, I was like, that was good enough, right?
Yes.
That was sort of the beginning of my pet peeve. Like, why can't we just go back to simplicity of that? Yes. Now I got these graphics and these caricatures, and before the halftime of the Jet game, they had Gronk in a blimp, superimposed on a blimp. Right, they got the Jet game. They did this like artist rendering of a jet flying through the air, like shaking because the Jets and it's a little prop plane. And then they had like at the beginning of the second half, they take the giant scoreboard and they superimpose it on the field, like all these little things that are just it's unnecessary. And then on top of it, if you watch the games, and I don't know why I get fixated on this, I have a hard time watching the game, especially on Fox, because they take the score and they put it in this giant block at the center of the screen at the bottom, and it never goes away. Put it up in the right-hand corner when it was like translucent so you could see right through it, but you knew the score was there. And I don't need to know for the whole game the Jets' record is 4-5. Like it's got to be on there all the time. Like why all of this around it? Simplicity is what I like. I don't need all of this.
Do you guys remember the old tail, the blue tail on the hockey puck for that one?
Oh my God!
That one year they did that. Yeah, that was awful.
Oh my God, that's right. What the hell they call that thing again? The laser, they had something. It works in golf. Now I like the tracer in golf.
I was just gonna say that's the only time I do like it because you can see, did he hook it? Did he slice it? Where's that thing going? Yeah,
that one. Yeah, I like the tracer in golf. Keep that one. That one actually works. That's a gimmick that actually works. But you're right, Scott. That NHL that one year, holy shit, that was what a goof fest that was.
So I can't remember if it was Fox, NBC, who it was that had that, but it was ridiculous. Like it was almost like someone was drawing the animation in as the guy was getting ready to shoot the puck.
Well, there was another year of Fox in the NFL. I guess they had a partnership with NASCAR or something also. And every time they showed like a replay or something like that, they'd have a NASCAR like the sound. Right. Every time it's like this, like the graphic would come up on the screen, and every time you'd make that fucking like God. I remember one time we're like, God damn it, turn that shit off. Like it's fucking NASCAR sound. Am I watching NASCAR or am I watching the NFL? Fox, what are we doing? Every graphic. And you're trying to hear over Aikman and Buck. That's stupid. But Novak, you're right though. You should, or with today's technology, you should be able to have the option to even turn the score on or off. Or just place it wherever you want as the viewer. Just place it wherever you want in whatever corner. Don't we have this technology?
Seriously, and because of fantasy, you got to see the scroll along the bottom that Rashee Rice caught a catch for 5 yards. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
Why do we need to see all of this? Put the game on. I have access to this on the internet. I don't need this.
My buddy Greg, I mean, he's got a system over there. It's hilarious. He's got this huge pizza box that he has. He keeps it up there all year because everything we watch is on DVR. So whether it's college basketball all night or college football, everything. So we just keep pizza box at the bottom of the TV so we can't see anything scrolling by, and then we go one DVR, one game save to the next. And as he's doing it, like a live time, we just have to look away, and then scroll down to the game you want to watch. He'll delete the one we just watched, and we watch everything in real time, like all day. That's how you have to do it.
Absolutely.
So we gotta get a huge pizza box or like a Jersey Mike's 6 foot long sub. Cut the thing out and just lay it across the bottom of the screen there. That's how you have to watch it today.
I put my beer in front of the bottom box score thing because I was getting so frustrated by the fact that I couldn't take my eyes off of it.
Yeah, exactly. I know for fantasy I've done that in the past. When I was in fantasy, I would because I didn't want to see what was going on in the games. I didn't want to know. Just to save myself the aggravation sometimes, I wouldn't look at this, because I was able to not look at the score, and because once my lineup was set, it was set. You know what I mean? Like, all right, I don't care if I'm winning or losing right now. I'll look later on tonight, So I used to put pillows up on the TV screen at the bottom there, just so I couldn't see the scroll going by,
I always used to hate that during preseason football. You're the Giant game doesn't come on till the next day that you're going to watch it. On tape. But yet you're watching something earlier that morning. All of a sudden the scroll comes by with the preseason game scores, and you're like, oh fuck, I just saw the Giants won or lost or whatever it was. I was like, Cardone, pet peeves.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to beat a dead horse here tonight, because my pet peeve tonight. It's usually either, what do we always talk about? For me, it's usually the social media, or it's the fans, it's the officiating, or it's the going. So this one, I happened to catch some of the Denver, Minnesota game last night, and I'm going to pick on the Denver Bronco fans for a minute, but this could be any. This is exactly what we've been talking about as far as we just talked about it. Novak, you mentioned the going for two, not taking field goals, all these things that are happening in today's day and age of football. So as I'm watching the game last night, Denver, and I didn't really care who won that game. I just had it on just for, at the end of the night. I was tired from the weekend. Didn't matter. So it's second quarter. Minnesota has a 10-3 lead. Denver is driving. Their drive stalls at around I want to get this right. I think the Denver, I'm sorry. Yes. Denver's drive stalls at the Minnesota 12. They've got a 4th and 2 at Minnesota's 12, down by 7, 10-3, second quarter. They trot out the field goal unit. The home crowd starts raining boos down on the field to the point where Collinsworth is like this. Collinsworth was agreeing with us. Like if he was on this, like he's saying the same, he was going to say the same thing I'm about to say. I'm like, this is nuts. You got the field goal. It's 4th and 2. Again, not 4th and 1 inch. 4th and 2. You've got a chip shot field goal of 31 yards. It's the second quarter. So Denver goes and kicks the field goal. All right, they cut it to 10-6. Fucking crowd is booing. They're outright booing that Sean Payton decided to kick the field goal in the second quarter. So guess what happens? They hold Minnesota to they force them to punt. There was about 4 minutes left in the second when it was exactly 4 minutes left when they kicked this field goal. 10-6 game. You cut it to a 4-point game. Minnesota gets the ball back. Denver's defense forces a punt. Denver gets the ball back again. They kick another field goal before the end of the half. So now it's 10-9. My point is, guess what? And I'm pointing at you now, fucking Booger McFarland, who says field goals don't win. Field goals don't win games. Yes, they do, asshole. Because guess what, Mr. McFarland? Denver scored. They ended the game. The game was 21-20. They scored a touchdown with a minute left to go in the game, and eventually they got the Minnesota turnover on downs late in the game. But along the way, Denver kicked what I think is five field goals, I think.
Yeah, because they missed a two-pointer at the end.
They did. They missed a two-pointer. They missed a two-pointer at the end to go. That's one where you want to go up by 3 instead of just up by 2. That's perfectly fine. That's acceptable in that situation. But I was thinking, is anyone in the stands saying, "Holy shit! Thank God we got those 3 points back then"? Because guess what? We would have been down 20-12 instead of 20-15. So the touchdown, you assholes, that you scored, that your team scored at the end of the game, gave you a 1-point lead instead of needing a touchdown and a 2-pointer just to tie the game at the end of the fourth quarter. So you won the game based on Peyton's decision to kick the field goal in the second quarter, which you were booing. Does anyone remember that? Is anyone walking out of that stadium like, "Holy shit, John, thank you for kicking the field goal back in the second quarter when I was booing, thinking you should go forward, 4th and 2 when you had a 31-yard field goal"? God.
Never forget what. Now, let's say they went for it, and let's say they didn't get it, which is possibility, right?
Absolutely. 4th and 2.
Now 4th and 2. Now it's 10-3. They have the ball. And let's say they get a touchdown. Now it's 17-3. And everyone's like, "Well, I wanted to go for it. I just wanted a different play call," right? Yeah. Which I'm guilty of course. But that's what everyone would have been screaming, because you don't think about what is the alternative to what actually happened.
Well, the analytics, right, Scott? I mean, the analytics, totally. They talk about just that particular drive. They don't talk about what could happen the rest of the game. The analytics doesn't kick in. Like, well, what, right? What? So you look at the scoring or the possessions the rest of the game, and again, I went to bed on this game. I didn't stay up to watch at the end of it. I happened to see the final score this morning, but I just remembered. I wrote it down. I'm like, that might be my pet peeve. I was happy just with the pet peeve of them booing. The fact, the way the game turned out, I'm like, oh, that makes my pet peeve and that much more, have that much more juice to it, because they ended up winning by a point rather than having to tie it with 8 points at the end of the game. So if there's any Denver Bronco fan listening, and I know your buddy Jack's a Bronco fan, Scott. So hey, field goals won you the game last night. So there you go. They do win games.
You mentioned analytics, and I heard a segment this week. Remember we talked about Dan Campbell going for the 4th and 2 last week against the Chargers, and they picked it up and obviously ended up winning the game. Well, I guess the math on that, the analytics actually favored that he should have kicked the field goal just slightly. It was, they said just slightly, but the announcer went on to say this was a statement going for it. This is Dan Campbell putting his stamp on the Detroit Lions. So what happens if that fails and they lose that game? Are they saying that? No.
No.
Everything's reactionary. It's so reactionary. And somehow Staley still has a job after he does all these going for it on 4th and 4 in his own territory and everything else, because the math supposedly supports him.
I don't know that there's a coach over the last 15 years that I think deserves to be fired more than that guy. I mean, really, if you think about it. It's unbelievable he still has a job.
It is.
I even look back at guys like, remember Marty Morinwing or whatever, the guy on the lines?
Yes.
To me, I was always like, this guy's getting shafted. He's not that bad a coach. They're just guys you're like, they're in a bad situation. I think Lovie Smith has been that guy. I think Lovie Smith has gotten teams to where they need to be, and then he's let go before he ever sees it through. And then he looks like Grizzly Adams with his beard. But it's some of these guys I think just are in bad situations. Staley somehow remains coach, even though I think the guy is actually losing games for his team. And there's not many coaches I've ever said that about.
Guys, let's not forget, Minnesota was involved in this one too. He absolutely should have been fired for a game he won. Remember the decision he went for it on 4th and 2 on his own 27 against the Vikings earlier this year. Now they got bailed out. They bailed themselves out with I think Cousins threw an interception in the end zone if I remember correctly. But he should have been. That's fireable. And they actually won the game. They should have lost that game or could have lost. Yeah. Unbelievable.
So my pet peeve, I'm going to get to what Novak talked about before, but I don't know if you guys watched the Cincinnati was it Baltimore game on Thursday night, and Mark Andrews got injured, and it was on what they're calling the hip drop tackle. And now there's calls we got to eliminate the hip drop tackle from the game. So we've already eliminated the horse collar tackle.
Horse collar.
It's a flag. Now we want to flag the hip drop tackle, which, by the way, guys still do these tackles. They just get penalties for them now. So you're not really eliminating them. You're just punishing them. And I don't understand, like, where are we going? You can't hit a quarterback low. And if you're a blocker, you can't go low. You can't hit a guy high because then you hit him in the helmet. You can't grab them from behind because that's a horse collar. And now you can't jump on them to get them down because that's a hip drop tackle. I'm really struggling where we go from a defensive standpoint on how we tackle players, on how we get people down to the ground.
Two-hand touch.
It's going to have to get the flags and two-hand touch. I really do think it's going that way.
The hip drop, is that what they're calling it? I'm not even sure if I know what this thing looks like. The hip drop tackle.
They actually used it earlier this year. I think Isaiah Simmons tackled someone. It was a quarterback out of bounds this year. Oh, it was Geno Smith. And he tackled him going out of bounds. And Geno got so pissed off at the Giants. Remember, he was barking at the Giants sideline for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because of the hip drop tackle rolled up on his ankle,
Yep.
What is left?
So is it now, like, I love when the official just says, like, personal foul, horse collar tackle. Is the officials now going to go to the screen? Personal foul, hip drop tackle. Like, what's the move going to be? Like, what's his actual? Is he going to do like a little side, like a little dance move, like
little
like
disco
the Eli
move.
Manning, like hip slide,
the Dak Prescott.
Yeah. Or maybe.
But it led me to a second part of this, and that's what Novak was getting at earlier. So if you're an announcer now, the announcers celebrate big hits. If you guys remember, Gunnar Olszewski was taking a punt back, and he gets drilled on the sidelines, and the announcer's like, "Oh, what a big hit on the sidelines!" And then they go back and they look at the replay, and they said, "Well, he had 1 foot in bounds." He also had 1 foot out of bounds, by the way, when he got drilled. And that's important, because then later on I was watching a game, and I almost think it was a 4:00 game. So I think it was the Seattle game. I think it was Seattle and the Rams. And one of the Rams players gets drilled by a Seahawk, and a flag comes out. And the announcer goes, "Well, he's got 1 foot out of bounds there. You got to throw that flag every time." So if he had 1 foot out of bounds, he had 1 foot in bounds, just like Gunnar Olszewski did. So you can't celebrate a hit when there's not a flag.
Yeah.
And then that same hit, because there's a flag come out, you say the exact contrarian thing about that hit.
Exactly. You can't
if you have,
doing that. You got to play
bounds,
smart.
you have 1 foot out of bounds.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
I love when the announcers contradict themselves. You got to be smarter than that. You can't cost your team 15 yards there. What are you thinking? Just because there's a flag. You can disagree with the official. You can disagree with the call, Mr. Announcer.
But they won't.
I've heard a number of times it said that's a flag every time. Well, no, it's really not. I've seen it's just when it's not a flag every time.
No, because you know who's famous for looks like they're running out of bounds and they run up 10 more yards is Mahomes.
Mahomes.
Oh,
He
Mahomes.
does it all the time because you
Yeah.
know why? Because he knows he can get away with it.
Well,
Because he's Patrick Mahomes, and
I
he's
thought
like,
you were
"Fuck
going to
it,
say
I'm
the.
just
I
gonna."
thought you were going to say the Dick, but yeah, Mahomes
Well,
too.
the Dick does it too, but he
Yeah.
hasn't played because he's has an
No, well,
Achilles injury, so I haven't seen him in a year. But
well, he's coming. He's coming back in December. So
oh
yeah,
God,
yeah.
he's coming back.
So we do have a couple questions this week. Brian Peacock has a great question. He wants to know what we're most thankful for as a Giants fan, and this would apply to as a Jets fan too. I think he was hoping Mike would be on to give his response. By the way, Mike wishes everyone a happy Thanksgiving and a happy holidays. He will not be joining us tonight, but he did want us to pass along his sentiments to our listeners. But Peacock wants to know what we're most thankful for as a Giant fan, and this could go back, ways. I think his example for Mike was that Mike was going to be thankful that Matt Barr hit the field goal against the 49ers years ago.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd have to start with obviously obviously it's the fact that we have cover your ears, Novak. I mean, the 4 Super Bowls. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been alive and well and for all these championships, and you can always, no matter how rough it's been, in the last 10 years, really, for the Giants, with, aside from last year, 1 year sticks out. The fact that you can, kind of go back in the archives, the history books and all those things and say that, because when you look at it in the NFL, how many franchises have more than 4? I think it's only, 4? Patriots, Steelers, Niners, and whatever. So who am I missing in there? But
Patriots,
yeah,
Chiefs
now, I think they only have, I don't know, but yeah, it's as far as, what's funny about the Matt Barr game, that might be, aside from, if I look at all the all the playoff games, I still think that's my favorite game of all time. And the Giants didn't even score a touchdown in that game, which is so ironic. They 5 Matt Barr field goals, just because
field goals don't win games.
Field goals don't win games.
I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, it won us the championship.
Are the Cowboys there? Do they have 4?
The Dallas has 5. Dallas has 5.
They have 5.
Okay.
Dallas has 5. Sanford. Yeah, so I missed it. But yeah, I guess when you look at the history since the merger, since the Super Bowl, Giants have 4 Super Bowl championships, which seems like a miracle given the state of the football that they've been in for the last decade. But always go back to that and just be thankful that I've got these memories and I've got the videos to prove it. Eli Manning is one of my favorite players of all time. Was thankful for everything he did for this franchise. So it sounds like a boring answer for our listeners. Sorry, Peacock. But as far as nothing to be thankful for right now in this current day Giant situation. But as a lifelong Giant fan, it's got to be the championships and the Super Bowls. Where else can I go? That's.
And I was going the same place you did, Chris. I mean, there's nothing better to me than the fact we ruined a Patriots perfect season.
Yeah.
And when
Agreed.
we did it by not, having the luck of the draw. We beat them straight up. It wasn't like it was a fluke. And another thing I'm really thankful for from a Giant standpoint is I'm thankful that the Washington Redskins picked George Rogers in the draft so that the Giants could get Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Redskins they're the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
By the way, I think it was Nance. I think it was during the Jets game. He referred to Washington as the Redskins, and then he spent the next minute and a half backtracking. Oh well, I mean the Commanders, and it's like, dude, you said Redskins. Everyone knows what you mean. It's okay. We you just have to say, I said Redskins. That's fine.
That was their team name for a decade. So nothing wrong with a Freudian slip there. That's all.
For me, I don't have any success to be thankful for, so I can't do the same things you guys. But I on this pod talk about how I hate being a Jet fan, but at the end of the day, I still love it. Cardone, you said it before, like it's just a relationship you can't get rid of. And it's a little deep, but really the relationships I have with people that are also Jet fans, like my father and my brother, like we're getting together on Friday to watch the Jets Dolphins game, and I can't wait. Like the 3 of us haven't watched the Jets in forever. That's going to be great. And then I got my boys who just texted me now, Billy and Tarosi, my two big Jet fans. We used to have season tickets together. And as I'm on the pod, they text, I really can't believe we're having these exchanges this season. I thought worst case we'd be making wild card and losing immediately. And then my buddy Tarosi was like, it's a tough slog, this Jet fandom. And like the relationships you have and that bond with like other Jet fans, because we suck so bad and we're just a bunch of losers together. I kind of am thankful for that. It's kind of weird, but I guess that's
Not
what
weird.
I have. I don't have the wins. I don't have Super Bowls. I don't have success. I've got the scarlet letter of being a Jet fan, and hey, the ones that come along for the ride with me, I'm thankful for that.
The underrated word, slog.
Slog.
He
I
did.
like slog.
It's a tough
Yeah.
slog, Jet fandom.
Yeah.
Slog's
Jet
it's a
fandom.
great descriptive word.
Listen, any diehard lifelong fan knows exactly what you're talking about, and that's what it's all about. It really is. It sounds, call it corny, call it whatever you want, but it's true. Like that's your. Listen, these guys saw it last year. I mean, we hadn't had a playoff win in a while. I know Novak Jets haven't been in the playoffs for a while. I'm just saying, but like, I was so emotional at the end of the Viking wild card win. I was just like, plus, not to mention the 17 white zombies that I drank that day, plus a couple shots or whatever. But Scott and Mike, I'm like hanging on. I didn't want them to leave my part. I'm like, I love you guys, man. Like just to win a playoff game. That's what it brings. It brings that out of you. Just that common bond that you just share with your buddies, that you have this love for this team. It's, and listen, I'm telling you, this year, one of my favorite Sundays was that Giant Jet game. We're at Mulligan's. That was a great time. Just the four of us just yucking it up, interacting with everybody at the bar, getting ice thrown at us at the end of the games from the bartender. Giants lost a horrific game. But you know what? Like, I was able to sleep okay that night and be like, you know what? I had a great time today, man. So
all that matters.
Well, and my wife still tells the story. She just told it last week to one of her friends about Chris being at her house watching a Giants game, and he's hiding behind. At the time, I had columns in the kitchen.
Super Bowl 42.
And he's hiding behind the columns because he doesn't want to watch a field goal. And then she looks up after the game, and there we are. He's in my arms with his legs wrapped around me, and I'm holding him. And she's like, I'm watching two grown men carry each other around a room.
Yes.
And there's that kind of emotion.
It's true.
You just don't see it. And you can't describe it as a fan other than it's just pure elation. And it's one of those things that this is what keeps us going every week. This is what keeps us doing a podcast when our teams suck. It's that drive, that I don't want to call it a high, but it's that drive that you're going for.
Oh, definitely. This is adrenaline right here, doing this every week, getting together with you guys, even though, online, I know we're going to get together again, hopefully a couple times before the end of this year, goes out and stuff, and we got playoffs and stuff, other teams to watch in the playoffs, but, but that's what it's about. It's sort of, I always said growing up, and I want to take a step back, thankful for the late great Uncle Dan in my family, because this was my dad's much older brother.
I got to meet Uncle Dan. I'm
you
very
certainly
glad
did.
for
Uncle Dan, he had the foresight, before, season tickets, bought 4 season tickets to the New York Giants before my brother and I were even born. Back in my dad and my uncle were at the greatest game ever played. They were at the 58 championship game against the Colts in Yankee Stadium. I can say my dad and my uncle were at that game. And so if no one knows what the hell I'm talking about, it's still dubbed the 1958 NFL championship
game of all time, right?
Giants Colts, Yankee Stadium. So my father and my uncle were at that game, which is amazing. So I was born into a New York Giants family, but I used to say growing up, we didn't going to Giant Stadium on Sundays in the fall. That was like our camping trip, or that was our, when fathers and sons bond out in the woods, going camping or canoeing or kayaking or something like that. All right, we parked in the parking lot off of 16W New Jersey Turnpike out in the swamp of the New Jersey Meadowlands. That was our camping trip on Sundays. That's, I joke around about it, but that's what we did. And then so growing up, I had those memories of just, that's what just made us the fans that we are. So I'm just thankful to be born into a sports family, and having tickets. I tell you, growing up with season tickets, it was just amazing knowing that going to those games. I didn't miss a home game for I don't know how many years straight. And I never missed a playoff game. I didn't miss a playoff game from Giants, from 81 until 2005. After I moved to Charlotte, and then the first one I actually missed was ironically when they were playing the Panthers in
Panthers,
05, I think.
Yeah.
Which the Giants got rocked by the Panthers that
when
game.
the Giants had like 3 street free agents playing linebacker.
Yeah.
And it was
so that was funny, actually the first play. That was the first home playoff game I had ever missed at that time.
We never experienced a lot of success, but like I said, like my two boys that we used to have season tickets, and we still talk about the Kotite 1-15 year as the most fun we ever had. We went into that game. I don't remember any of those games, but we had just such a blast because we just didn't care. They were terrible. It was second last row of the stadium. It was just, that's the kind of stuff you just miss as you get older.
Yeah.
So Peacock also asked, this is probably a Giant fan question more than anything else. So would we give up anything to make Bill Belichick our coach, or has his time passed? And for me, I'll answer this first. Look, Bill Belichick's 72 years old right now. If you had asked me this question 5 years ago, I'd take him in a heartbeat. As Bill Belichick sits today, I want him to retire. I want Bill Belichick to go out while his legacy is still intact. There's no tarnish to it. Just go out, ride the sunset. I know the guy doesn't have any other hobbies besides football, so he'll probably go crazy sitting around doing nothing. But I do not want him as a Giants coach now.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, Scott. In fact, I've been saying it for the last couple months now, that he just looks like he's cooked. He looks cooked, Belichick. I mean, yeah, he certainly doesn't have to prove anything to anyone as far as his accomplishments and what he's achieved in this league as a head coach. He's going to go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, maybe of all time. Certainly in our era, as far as head coaches go. I mean, what he's accomplished. So it's a good way to put it. Maybe, certainly, 5 years ago before we had, Joe went through the Joe Judge bullshit and Pat Shurmur and all that. Yeah, absolutely. But now, because I like Brian Daboll. I think Daboll's a good head coach. I certainly want to see Daboll, succeed with this franchise and want to give him, as many years as possible. So but if we're not, the question's not about Daboll. It's really about Belichick. And no, I think he should just ride off into the sunset, take his championships. Don't try to stretch your career out anymore. Like you said, 72 years old, go do something within, you have a job, I'm sure, for life with New England, as long as you don't, tarnish ruin any relationships there. He could do whatever he wants, Bill Belichick. So just walk away, retire, and go right into the Hall of Fame. Is he in the Hall of Fame? Go into the Hall of Fame.
They always talk about Lombardi being a great coach and what he's accomplished. I think Belichick has surpassed him years ago. But you know what I always think about Lombardi? You see old footage of him, and you think of him as a relatively old man. I think when he passed away, he was under 60. I think he was like 58, 57 years old.
Was he that young?
Really? I think he was that young. He had cancer, but
60-something, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he ever hit 60. I could be wrong on that. I want to say 58, 57.
Well, those old like pictures, the black and white photos, these people look like they were 30 years older than they were. A 50-year-old guy looked 80. I don't know why. They just did.
I'm going to leave here and wear a trench coat and a fedora, right? I mean, that's not normal.
Babe Ruth looks 60 to me. I don't know how old Babe Ruth was
during his playing days. Yeah.
Now, real quick, I know Peacock didn't ask me, but let me just say that Belichick was the HC of the NYJ. And so he didn't win us anything. So I think he's a little overrated. I'm just saying.
So my buddy Mike also sent in a couple questions. He asked if we think Kafka and Martindale are on the hot seat and should they be replaced, and did this past game alleviate anything on the hot seat for them. And when it comes to coordinators, I'll answer this first. I mean, look at last year. Giant fans in the offseason are like, oh, I hope Kafka and Martindale don't get poached by other teams. And we didn't want other teams to take our coordinators. Now, all of a sudden, midway through this year, we're like, Kafka and Martindale fucking suck. Let's fire them. Let's get rid of them at the end of the year. You never know what's going on. I don't know what the thinking is of the head coach versus his coordinators. We saw, you brought it up last week about Ken Dorsey getting fired, Cardone. He got fired mid-season. I think if a coordinator gets fired in season, a lot of times there's friction between him and the coach, or him and someone else, and not seeing eye to eye. I don't know if that's the case with Kafka and Martindale, and I don't know enough to say one guy should be fired because they both have pretty good track records in what they did last year, and Martindale, of course, with the Ravens. So in my mind, I defer judgment to the front office and to Dable because I don't have enough information on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the defense is definitely really ramped up the last several games, right? So they look a lot more like the aggressive blitz happy defense that we saw from Wink's defense a year ago. So I don't know. I think you get emotional, right? I'm calling for Kafka's head, last week just because, just hearing about Dorsey getting fired with the Bills, but to your point, Scott, there's probably something going on behind the scenes that the viewer, the fan, we have no idea what's happening. Regardless, it's not about that. It's more about is Kafka the right play caller for this offense? And I kind of go back to what we've been saying about Daniel Jones for a long time now. Jones, about this offensive line is so freaking bad. I can't tell who to point the finger at. So do I point the finger at Mike Kafka? Is it where does the needle go? I can't really tell where to point because his hands are tied. I'm always thinking they need to do more RPOs, or they need to get Barkley out in open space, or they need misdirections, or they need but as long as this offensive line is piss poor as they are, what plays can you possibly call? How creative can you get in this offense? So just flipping a different OC in there, I don't know what it would do exactly. Not sure how much it would improve. So I guess I don't have a good answer for the question, I guess. I'm not answering it directly other than just, I don't know, did these guys get at least one more year perhaps? Because if Jones is not going to be our quarterback and a lot of questions this offseason for the New York Giants, a lot of questions. I think, I was barking about fire somebody. I wasn't even necessarily saying the coordinators. I was saying fire somebody. I don't care if it's the O-line coach, fire a positions coach, somebody, just to show holy shit, this is not acceptable and we're not going to tolerate this. So I wasn't necessarily pointing at, maybe Kafka, but just somebody has to go. So I know it's a roundabout way to answer the question. I didn't answer it directly, perhaps, because I really don't know, Scott. I just don't know how to say, this, because I always, my response is always, all right, who do you want? Someone would ask me, well, who do you want, Cardone? And then I'm like, I don't know. I can't answer that. So I can't just say, fuck Kafka, get his ass out of here, this and that. Well, now who, what? Now who? Or who? I don't know. Anybody. I don't want, I want to be somewhat knowledgeable to be like, well, we should go get so-and-so and so-and-so who's going to be, maybe a guy coming out of college or someone that's on I don't know. I don't know who to go grab. So where does that leave us? A lot of questions.
Novak, any thoughts on the Jets coordinators? I mean, you have the old, you have the offensive coordinator there that's been around, and then you have the defensive coordinator that's got a beard. That's all I know about the beard guy.
I mean, can't say anything bad about the Jets defensive coordinator in my mind. He's done a great job. And then Hackett is awful, but he's only there because of the dick. So he's not going anywhere. And until the dick says he's not coming back, Hackett is our offensive coordinator. He's not going. There's a chance he could be the head coach. I mean, so there's nothing we can do about it. We're stuck with him for one more year. And at this point, I do want the dick to come back because we've basically just thrown our hands up and said, just this is going to be our team for 2 years, and we didn't get to see him this year. I want to see him play, even if he comes back this year and plays on Christmas Eve.
I want to read the second question verbatim because it's actually pretty funny. He asked, did Tibbs's post-sack performance art disgust you and give you a negative flashback to OBJ? And conversely, the sexy Dexy dance doesn't bother me so much because he's a massive guy with an ample belly. Does that mean I'm officially too old? I will say this, Mike, you better not be considered too old because I know we're about the same age and I don't consider myself too old. And I will say this, I actually like Tibbs's. I don't know what Tibbs was doing when he did the box and then the ring and held it up, or he did something like that. It was like, I don't care what these guys do anymore with celebrations. And the reason I say that is because these defenders now, when they do a big play, they run fucking 70 yards to the opposing end zone and take a fake camera pose. Is there a camera back there that they're posing for? I still don't know that. Are they just going to the end zone because they're allowed to go to the end zone? I don't know if there's an official photobomb site or something like that? Because these guys all run to the end zone and do this thing where they do a group pose.
The hell knows. It doesn't matter with these guys. That's just now the accepted thing, and every defense does it, right? It's not. It doesn't matter.
No,
what,
everyone. As soon as they get a turnover, they run.
Yeah.
Whatever, how many yards it is, it could be
Doesn't
90
matter.
yards. They run the opposite way.
Yep. And we just have to. The game just has to be delayed and wait for it. You know, just. My response to that question is only this is where I am. I do sound like the old crusty guy. Where just it better be. You better have the fucking lead when you do it. I'll tell you that. You better have. I can't stand when these guys are dancing and bullshitting around when they're like down by 2 scores. You know, at any point in the game or something. It better be situational kind of celebrating stuff. You know what I mean? Like I always go. It drives me crazy when guys are dancing around and stuff after they're getting gashed. You know, on a particular drive, and then they get one TFL, tackle for loss, and the guy's all gyrating up there, you know, after a tackle for -1 yard. Or you look at the scoreboard and they're down by 30 in the second half, and when the game's gonna be over. So I don't pay that much attention to all this crap. I really don't. I hate it. Actually, I hate most of it. But it's part of the game. I just accept it, you know. But I'm okay with it as long as you better back it up. It better be backed up in the game at the time when you're doing this bullshit. That's all.
Any thoughts, Novak?
I was gonna say the same thing Cardone did. I have no problem with it. Like I used to love the Mark Gastineau sack dance. Everyone hated it. Everyone hated Gastineau, but I loved it. Fired up the crowd. It was great. But it usually was because they were decent back then. It was when they were winning. But if you're doing that stuff and you're down 2 scores, or I see these guys in the Jets when they're, even though it's not the defense's fault, they're down 20-0. Just get back into the huddle and to go to the next play. Stop with this shit.
Yeah.
So, you guys got anything else today?
Do we do predictions?
We do have to do predictions. I was just going to point that out. So, Giants and Pats and Jets Dolphins. So, let's do Giants Pats first.
You know, this is crazy, but I'm trying to decide who I'm going to pick to win this game. I'm like rubbing my temples here on video here. I'm actually going to pick the Giants, I think, just to keep this DeVito momentum going. Why not? Although every time I do pick them, that's when they lose. So I don't know what to do here. But New England, I really don't have much to say about New England. They're coming off a bye. I know that. So another team that we're playing off of a bye somehow. The NFL schedulers, they love doing that. They love getting a well-rested team.
AWS.
Yeah, AWS did it again, bastards. But you know what? Giants maybe are due for a home game. This is a home game. You got New England coming in. I think so. Give me the Giants in another low-scoring game. Give me something like I don't know. Let's go. I know New England's offense stinks too. So give me 16-10 NYG. A home win for the home crowd. The loyal diehards of Giant fans going up there on the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
I have something very similar. I have the Giants winning 17-14.
There you go.
I think this comes down. I think this is going to be similar to the Redskin game in that it's going to be close to the fourth quarter. I think there's going to be. I think if Mac Jones is the starter, I think there's going to be a few turnovers. I think the Giants aren't going to be able to move the ball. Tommy DeVito is not going to look great, but he's going to do just enough to help us get by. And I think we didn't talk about Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley had one hell of a game. Even though they had 0 yards rushing at halftime, he came out the second half and was just gangbusters. But even in that first half, he had a great catch on the sideline, and he had the wheel route for the touchdown.
Yeah.
So
he looks healthy again, Barkley. Yeah.
I got to tell you, of all the games we've had this year, Jets and Giants, I have no idea on this one.
I don't either.
I am really about 50-50 right down the center on who I want to pick on this. Just because I'm afraid I have a lead, so I don't want to lose my lead. I'm going to go with the Giants too. I'm going to say they're going to win 17-14, and I really don't know.
Same score as I had. That's great.
Oh, did I say that? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's okay.
Yeah.
Jets Dolphins.
I think we all know where we're going here.
You want to take that one, Novak? Yeah, your Jet team.
Yeah, I'll start it. Look, I think that the fact that Zach Wilson is not running or falling out on the field when the game starts is a good thing for the Jets and the home crowd. it's anyone other than him. So I think that actually they'll keep it closer than one might think, because it's someone different. But in the end, they will lose again, and I will say 24-13.
Cardone?
Yeah, I'm very similar to what Novak just said. I think I was trying to think in terms of score. I have Miami winning certainly, and now it's just a matter of the score. I think as good as the Jet defense is, I just don't think they can stop that high-powered Miami offense for 60 minutes, because I think again the Jet defense, no, they've got to be a tired unit. I mean, they just need.
And
they're on the
pissed
field
off.
a lot. They're
Yep.
so I regardless of who the Jets have under center next week, I don't see them being able to put up enough points, certainly not to match Tua and Miami. So, but I think the Jet defense will do enough to force, get off the field here and there and keep Miami down. So I'm not, so give me Miami 26 to 13. They'll double them up.
Yeah. I'm thinking similar too. And I honestly do think the Jets have a chance here, because I watched the Raiders play them, and the Raiders D is not great, but the Raiders kept Miami in check. The Raiders offense couldn't do a whole lot last week, which I expect New York not to be able to do a whole lot either. But I do think that Jet D is going to give them some fits. I think Tua is going to be harassed. If they could, disrupt the passing game at all, that might put a wrench into it for a little bit, but Doyle still has to put points up. So, or is it Boyle?
Doyle. What is it?
Boyle.
And I'll say one more quick thing. There is a very good chance that Tua gets knocked out in this game, and Mike White comes in and leads the Dolphins to a victory, just because that's so Jets.
So I do have Miami winning this game 21-10.
Sounds right.
All right.
All right. Before we wrap up, guys, we normally do this on our Thanksgiving episodes. Anything to be thankful for? I'll start for Novak. Doesn't have to be football related, just in general.
Doesn't have to be football related. Well, of course, I could say the standard friends and family, right? And that's just that goes without saying. I got my daughters coming home, so I'm very excited about that. I'll be with both families over the next few days, so I'm gonna stick with that, even though it's a fairly boring answer, but I will definitely say that. And hey, look, we're getting up there in age, boys, so I still have my health, all good, so I can't complain. So I'll stay there.
Oh yeah.
Cardone?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go. Geez, I'm gonna do this real sappy, I guess. I mean, I'm just, my love interest, she's been just a blessing for me in the last year or 2 years now almost, and so given the fact that she's a sports fan too, albeit at Eagles, but I can certainly accept that long, for it's just been a great, this past year has just been great. So thankful for everything that we have going on there, and thankful for my son Cole, of course. Just love the guy to death. And he's in his senior year at App State, and we were talking about just what it means to be a college football fan. I never had a college football team growing up, and to now have App State as my favorite team. I've gotten really into watching college football, so it's just added a lot of joy and extra sports spectating and just enjoyment to my sports viewing. So thankful for all that as well. And my family and friends, of course. You got everybody, friends and family, everyone in that circle.
I want to hate all Eagle fans, but you can't hate Kit. So I'm thankful, guys. I'm thankful for being able to do this podcast every week. I'm thankful we're able to get on the air, give our brand of humor, yet like sort of balanced criticism of our teams. I think this is great therapy, as well as it's just great from a friend standpoint to be able to see you guys every week and be able to talk. Unfortunately, we haven't caught a whole lot of games together like we were talking about before. I will echo what Chris said earlier too. I am very thankful. I got to, I think, 5 Clemson games this year. And just the college atmosphere. I don't know if it's because the Giants are in a down year or if it's just everything that's going on with the NFL. I'm becoming more of a college fan. I never thought I would say that, but I go to these games and I just love the pageantry. I love the tailgating. I love everything behind that. And then I get to Sunday and I just end up getting pissed off watching, whether it's the Giants or just another team getting shafted by the refs. I sit there and I'm more angry on Sundays than I am on Saturdays. Even Clemson in a down year, they lose, but I've had a great time at the game. And we get home and we're like, that was fun today, even though Clemson lost. And you don't say that about everything. And on Thursday, we're going to have about 24 people at our house. I'm going to be cooking 2 turkeys.
Oh, wow.
And you know what?
Nice.
I don't look at it as work at all. I'm just happy to have family here and be able to celebrate it. And I'm actually looking forward to the holidays this year. I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to Christmas parties. I'm looking forward to Christmas. I'm just, I'm in the festive mood,
Absolutely.
No, it's great. This is a great time of year.
And again, sending our best to Mike.
Yeah, let's send our best to
on
Mike.
the pod here.
All right, guys. That's it for this week. We'll be back to talk about the Black Friday game. The first Black Friday game ever, by the way.
Yeah.
Painted black.
And we get the Giants at a 1:00 game finally on Sunday versus the Patriots. 2 games in a row on 1:00 on a Sunday. So
that's amazing. Yeah.
We will probably be back next week on our regular time on Thursday. Again, we're recording this on Monday. So the Eagles and Chiefs have just kicked off about 10 minutes ago, and right now it's 0-0. So, guys, hope everyone has a great week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Enjoy
Thanksgiving,
it with
everybody.
Your friends and family.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.